let's talk about more easy money and talk about how a big crypto team is actually raising money on the backs of down Bitcoin Ethereum prices. Flashbots, the Ethereum research and developer team, is raising about $50 million at a $1 billion valuation, which would make it a unicorn. Pretty cool to see another unicorn out there. 1 billion valuation. They're going to be led by Paradigm at this time, which Paradigm, pretty notable crypto VC company that has invested in Coinbase, also invested in Flashbots back in 2020. Flashbots is a pretty integral part of the Ethereum ecosystem at this point. They basically act as like this middle layer between validators, node operators, and the Ethereum ecosystem in order to send and bundle transactions to different places. It's pretty tech speaky, so we don't need to necessarily get into all of that. But it is interesting to see them raise money at this time when everything else is slowing down, right? Teams are building right now. Flashbots is raising more funds to get that biddling done. Zach, I'm going to throw the story over to you.
Yeah, this is a throwback. We don't see this as much anymore because crypto VC is really down in the dumps, right? There's not a lot of checks being written right now. People are sort of hedging their bets or licking their wounds, even in the case of a lot of these venture funds in the wake of the FTX collapse. So just seeing those numbers, I think, does harken back to brighter days, 50 million, 1 billion. That's something that's of note. And I think this is a raise that makes sense for this era, right? This is sort of a much more tech focused, a much more infrastructure focused, a much more back end, unsexy, not consumer focused, not FOMO driven investment that could pay off in the long term for those who are able to get in on this round. That to me is what this story is about. MEV, all that stuff is increasingly important. I need to know more about it before I try to talk cogently about the topic. But especially as it relates to MEV and I think it's block construction, which happened after the merge on Ethereum. That's becoming a whole new market that people far smarter than I are identifying as a way to make money in these markets. So the fact that I think that the aberration is attached to this firm makes sense to me. But it is indeed a throwback to headier days. Adam, I'll toss it to you.
Yeah, I think that this makes total sense. Echo everything that you said there. A couple of additional notes. First off, this is a safe bet, right? Like it's a high valued bet, but it's a safe bet, relatively speaking. And I think that as we go through the bear market, we'll see increasingly more of the investments that are coming are going to be like this, where it's a lot of different groups banding together and making a bet on a player that they think will play perhaps not a monopolistic role, but a dominating role in a particular sector that isn't speculative, that isn't about a new use case that requires users who are outside of the ecosystem. This is purely about servicing the ecosystem as it exists from a company that's already proven that they're a part of it. So that it strikes me as a very safe bet and a correct type of bet to see in this type of an environment. I also think that again, when you look at kind of the moment that we're in right now, like this type of thing will continue to happen. The question is, how many other players are there out there really that are investable in the same way, that can have that same type of dominance narrative for one of the kind of premier blockchains? I don't really think there are that many. So I think that, again, the bear market will be characterized by fewer of these larger bets just because there aren't very many investable entities where you can really make this claim. And the folks who are making the investments are the ones who have really been kind of just hanging out and have their, still have capital to do this. So it seems like it makes a lot of sense to me. Last word over to you, Zach.
Yeah, quick pitch to Will. I mean, they claim to sort of be able to mitigate front running, right? To make these markets more fair and transparent. They've sort of been advertised as even sort of a quasi public good. What's your take on that? Do you think there's merit to those claims?
Yeah, I think there is merit to it. Like that's definitely on the roadmap, and they've executed on the roadmap pretty consistently. I think in terms of Ethereum teams, they're up there with Ethereum Foundation and Consensus, and so people should definitely be paying attention to Flashbots. And I think a raise like this really cements their value within the ecosystem, and that $1 billion valuation, which they're actually inviting teams to pitch them. They're not pitching anybody on joining their round. You have to pitch them to be able to participate. That kind of shows you like how important they are within the ecosystem. That being said, I think there's a lot of decentralization questions around Flashbots in the space. So we look forward to seeing more about that.